all the important items that you need to know. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always by one of the smartest men in the world of fantasy NBA analysis, Mr. Fast Eddie Fear. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready for this. It's a big day. Had a good day yesterday when I wasn't on the show, so that was good. It provided no help to anybody in that respect, but it's a fun day here. And you know what, Eddie? It's always a fun day thanks to Thrive Fantasy, our sponsor here. They're a new DFS app where players draft a lineup built of prop bets of only top-tier athletes. You pick 10 props out of the 20, and the less probable a prop is to occur, the more points it's worth, and that's where the game theory lies. So click this link. I'm going to drop in the YouTube now. You get $5 for any sign up at all. If you're a new sign up, you just get $5. Don't have to put any money in at all. Just get $5. It's like if somebody were to hand you $5 for doing nothing. So go check Thrive out now. Eddie, we got a prop here and a guy who's going to be very popular today, affected by Chris Paul being out, Mr. James Harden. He's got an over-under of 37.5 points. The over will get you 105. The under will get you 95. I think this one was set before Chris Paul was rolled out. Just call that a hunch. I'm going to go over for James Harden. What's your brave take?
Over. I haven't. Not that much more, by the way. I have him at 41.7 points, but I have him at a total of 66 fantasy points. But yeah, I'm going over.
Yeah, I think it's a spot like this where you're going to get some extra points for going over. I see no reason to go under here. But there you go. Check it out on Thrive Fantasy now. Click that link and get your $5 free. You literally do nothing. Just sign up, give them your account name, and then you're getting $5 in your pocket, which you just have to win, and it's all you. Check out Thrive now. All right, Eddie, tell me about this Rockets game. Tell me about your James Harden love. Are you going to be with the field, above the field? Where are you feeling with him, given that this is probably about as perfect of a spot as it can be, maybe a little low-paced, but besides that?
I don't know. What's the field?
Let's see the field right now. Let me make sure I have the most recent update. Field is going to be not the highest owned guy, but number 2 right now at 33% on DraftKings.
Over.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're building any single lineup, I don't know, again, for every guy there's a perfect sort of equilibrium spot where it would make the most sense to get away versus stay on. Even mathematically with a million variables, you could figure it. And I don't know what it is for James Harden, but it's north of 33%. There are a ton of other great options. DraftKings basically, published a piece today on how to do shitty pricing because it's almost disquieting that there's 39 guys I projected demolish their price tags. So, and again, it's not really difficult. Either one of two things is going on. Either A, they're having an algorithm do salaries and publish it without anybody revising them, which I don't think is the case because we've frequently get stuff like James Ennis getting priced up, $1,400 before his last matchup. No way the algorithm would have given that. Someone had to manually go in there and say, hey, this dude is probably going to start. And then they have someone doing it who's just bad. And thankfully, I've been doing it every day for 7 years, and it's an easy job because it's a self-regulating mechanism. As in, like, if a guy's too cheap, more people own him, and it just changes the nature of the game from find the best values to adding more of a wrinkle about ownership. It's still pretty aggravating. But, yeah, James Harden, he had 72 last time he played the Suns, and Chris Paul was in. There was one game without Chris Paul against the Suns last year where he had only 59, I think it was, and that was the one he shot 1 of 9 for 3, just missed his triple-double. The price is even down, a little more inclined to get away from it on FanDuel because I like a couple shooting guards, but I bet the ownership is even lower there due to the price being a little more egregious. But, my highest scoring play on the slate by 9 points, and seeing 100 here is not out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. And this is a guy who's gotten at or close to 100 4 or 5 times. So, fade at your own peril. But for me, 33% is insultingly low. And I will go ahead and project that he's going to actually end up being closer to 40, and I would still want more than that.
Yeah, I mean, when he was at his peak, when he was on that run, which, I think expecting him to be on that exact same trajectory as he was during that run is probably a bit of a fool's errand. But even if he's 90% of that, 85% of that, he was at 13K and above. I mean, I think it's just
why do you consider that to be a fool's errand or an inappropriate amortization of his?
I mean, I just think to assume he's going to reach those heights again. I mean, it took him a little bit of while to play into the shape where he was able to handle that kind of load. I think his usage has been trickling down a little because he's kind of been mentally slowing down heading into the playoffs. But I think it's entirely possible. I just think if you're assuming even that he's going to be a little bit worse, he's still a fantastic value overall.
Yeah, okay.
Give me your thoughts on the rest of the Rockets. Anybody else going to benefit? Maybe a Clint Capella.
Sure.
Eric Gordon going to have some popularity. Gerald Green also been talked about a decent amount.
Everybody benefits. Austin Rivers, now, I've projected playing north of 30 minutes. He's $3,100 on DK. He's absolutely reasonable to run out there. Gerald Green's time is going to increase into the mid-20s for me. He's one of a couple extremely good small forward punts on FanDuel who I'd want to be very exposed to. PJ Tucker, just very much in play in this environment always, and it does project an extra shot or two for him in a matchup that's obviously as clean as it's going to get for you. Capella, fine. Someone asked in chat before today, it doesn't significantly change his projection, but it does significantly affect his delta. And that just means there's a better chance he floors out a little bit and a much better chance that he ceilings out. So I'd have more appeal for Capella, who it's more likely randomly, drops his 60 today. Center, obviously, a really difficult spot with some good value there, and any number of underpriced guys from Embiid to Drummond to Nurkic, on DK, it's kind of hard to get there. But certainly don't disappear with Capella. This all comes into ownership plays today. So, the daddy leg segment is going to be especially relevant. Yeah, I was responding to news, so I'm going to have my rankings up in about 90 seconds. I'm just redoing Washington and then going to bang those out. But, yeah.
I'll talk about the Sun side if you want to finish up your rankings. I think I'm probably a little more intrigued by the Sun side than people seem to be ownership-wise. Seen some people talking in the chat on the Deeper Dive show. They were talking about Devin Booker a little bit. But I think the guys also, Laffy and Josh, also kind of didn't seem super interested in Booker. I don't think he's the point book play like that we hoped he would be when all the point guards got traded or released or whatever it may be. But I think he's in a good spot here. I think he's been more efficient. I've kind of liked he's rounding into a more professional player, if that makes sense, from what I've seen of him. I think this is a good spot for him to get back on track. And I think the comp to Kemba's not crazy. I mean, he's a similar player who can get that usage up now without a lead ball handler as well. I think he can reach those heights, whether he does or not. I don't know, but he's at a nice price. Kelly Oubre, too, interests me a little bit. And Ayton, I think, with the ownership where it is, about 15%. Last that I checked, I think he looks pretty good. So give me some thoughts on the Phoenix side, and hopefully that was enough time for you to finish the rankings.
Nope, but that's okay. Phoenix is the team I'm kind of most interested in here. So one of my favorite plays on FanDuel is Josh Jackson, because I believe he starts. Now, I'm obviously reading tea leagues. They haven't said, and I have no exact idea, but I do think Phoenix as a whole is going undersold. I like Booker here. Obviously, there's some correlation if you're already playing Harden, running him back there as a high-scoring guy here. I do think he starts at point guard. I do think that increases his ceiling noticeably. I do think this is a spot now where I would project him for almost a double-digit assists. Especially at his ownership. I would much rather in a tournament, certainly if I'm playing James Harden, and certainly because I'm probably playing other Charlotte guys, I like playing Devin Booker more than what I expect to be a more popular Kemba Walker, if you can give me our ownership on those two guys real quick. I like Devin Booker a lot, and I don't have any reason not to. Like, I haven't projected for 46, and I think there's a number on top of that. Like, I really, really like Devin Booker tonight. So, Josh Jackson's very interesting for me because my best guess at a starting lineup now is him entering the starting lineup in place of Tyler Johnson. Non-zero chance you get the scrub point guard coming in who immediately was, if Elie Kobo gets the start, who's played 2 minutes the last few games, he'd be pretty compelling as a 3K option. But Booker, again, just, Chris Paul is gone, which radically changes the defensive. He can handle Austin Rivers a little bit better there. And just, yeah, so I'm a massive fan there. I'm a much bigger fan of DeAndre Ayton in this spot than I was, a couple days ago when basically it was my fade of the day. The ownership will be much more appealing. The price is down even a little bit more. So I like to see that, certainly. I like Kelly Oubre at 5,900 as a piece of this game to pick if you don't take Booker and you want to run it back. I like McCall Bridges as a punt. Like, I'm a pretty big fan of Phoenix in this spot, actually. So I think it's probably my favorite game stack. Yeah, I think my best guess is that they are going to keep Bridges with the second unit and move Josh Jackson in. I'm not shocked if I get that wrong. McCall obviously started any number of games this year, and I think that's the second most likely option. Tertiary for me is probably Elie Kobo. But either McCall Bridges coming back in or Josh Jackson going in changes the value of Josh Jackson a little bit, but both of them give you point Booker, which is the real point of this sermon.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're on the same page with Phoenix then. Let's talk about the Pelicans, who Anthony Davis has been ruled out. Obviously, still have Drew Holiday out for at least a little bit longer. Elfrid Payton on a tear, 250-point fantasy point days in a row, both of which also had triple doubles. Julius Randle should see an uptick. What's your interest in this Pelican side here? And we can talk also about the Blazers, who are going to be in a pretty high scoring spot as well.
Pretty low. I don't have a problem if you want to go back to Elf, but this is sort of the definition of point chasey. Like, I like Elfrid Payton. I predicted the first triple-double, which was nice. But his ownership has come up, his price has come up, and now he's got to match up against a really difficult team with a massive line, or a significant line. It's not even massive by today's standards. I would be disinclined to chase that. I like Elf a lot. His production, his projections without Drew Holiday become really significant. Like, I get it, but it's still Elfrid Payton, and you're still now spending a really significant number on him. And I would rather Jeremy Lamb if I'm not playing Kemba. There's just other guards I would rather get to in that area. Obviously, the ceiling's there. If he goes out today and got 50 again, I would not be shocked. There's obviously some animus in this game, although half the team is sitting or absent or traded or what have you, but Portland and New Orleans had an interesting postseason series, to say the least. Yep. Last time out, but yeah, that's so. Let me finish this up and talk about something for 60 seconds, and I'll be done. I just have to upload it now.
So I'm putting some Elfrid Payton exposure in because he didn't grade out particularly well for me the last two games, and I missed out on the first game. I had a little taste of that last one. But I think he's just getting there. I think here's another pet theory I have, and as you guys, if you watch the show enough and also the Four Corners video every day, I have a lot of pet theories. And the ones with rebounding, I think I've been pretty sharp on recently. With Larry Markkinen, I kind of have been good about picking that out as his weakness. Julius Randle not rebounding recently, and I think that also has coincided with Elfrid Payton having this upside. So one lineup thing that I've been going to is if I'm not playing Elf, and it's not every lineup, but for a few, not playing Elf, I've put in Julius Randle because I think if he's not getting the rebounds, if Payton's not, I think they're going to go to Randle. I think that gives him enough upside, along with the usage uptick he'll get with Davis sideline. I'm curious about your thoughts, Eddie, while you finish up your rankings, about one guy on the Portland side who's been a monster versus New Orleans time and time again. Now there's no Mo Harkless in there. Al-Farouq Aminu has been consistent as can be versus the Pelicans, and I don't really know why. I think it's a spacing thing. He gets some corner threes, also a little bit of a rebounding upside because of the way Nurkic is positioned. Is Aminu going to continue that, and what would be a reason why he would be so good against this team and really nobody else in the league?
I mean, it has a lot to do with the fact that his minutes are up a few. He averages, I think, close to 3 more minutes against them than he does on average, and that's got to do with his ability to defend a couple other guys, most notably Anthony Davis, who is sitting. The fact that Mo Harkless is out does portend an extra minute or two for him, and he's obviously really cheap. I'm fine with it, but this isn't a particularly recognizable New Orleans team for him. Like, when you take Drew and Anthony Davis out of there, this just is a different team. So sure. I have no issue with Al-Farouq Aminu, but even if I bought into those stats 100%, which I do about 50%, I think it is relevant. And again, when you look at any guy versus team, guy versus guy, whatever, there's an extent to which those stats are predictive and an extent to which those stats are just noise. They're not just noise. I think he has a good spot there. But when you take Drew out and take Anthony Davis out, this team is getting fairly close to unrecognizable. Most of those stats were accrued before the existence of Julius Randle, so he's I don't think he's good against the uniform. So so for that reason, I don't lend a lot of weight to that. But I will say playing anyone on Portland makes some sense to me. You have Harkless out of there, which is going to add some more wing minutes to a few guys, most noticeably Jake Layman. Evan Turner probably isn't entirely out of play, though we don't know how healthy he is. Obviously, McCollum and Lillard have an upside and a brilliant matchup. Nurkic certainly just going against the Pelicans is great. And I don't expect we're going to see any significant ownership here. So I'm totally fine with playing Aminu, but it would only be, very slightly derived of previous success versus the Pelicans.
Okay. No, that seems fair to me. I think, to me, the pace-up spot is what jumped out as being interesting and getting a little more shots. I think the corner threes for him, too, come a little easily here. But I think you're right, though, without Davis out there, that does change. And Drew as well does change things materially. I think as a pivot, though, to Jake Layman, I'm going to put some in because Layman, his ownership came down in our most recent update a little bit. But we had him close to 20. Now he's at 14% projected ownership. Aminu is at 10, so he's coming up a little. But that little bit of a difference, I think, could be interesting. I like Aminu enough to get him in some lineups today.
So,
what about Lillard and McCollum and Nurkic for you?
Yeah, so raw projection, I would prefer Nurkic the most of those guys. He's safe. I still think he gets his 28, 30 minutes. He's massively productive. They have no one who can guard him. So certainly some random chance you get some 5x5 bullshit Nurkic line here where he throws up 70 wouldn't shock me whatsoever. But, he has dudded in exceptional spots in the past, is generally fairly difficult to predict, and there's a significant line in the game. And he's center only and fairly expensive on FanDuel. So there's a lot of reasons to get away there. I think I would be slightly more exposed to McCollum than Nurkic, even though Nurkic would be my slightly more favorite play. And then I have absolutely no issue with someone playing Lillard. It's just difficult and again, obviously, always site-dependent, but a world where there is Booker and Kemba, who I really, really like, and just a couple of other guys there. I want to mention... Ariza's in, Decker's in, so a couple people asked me about Troy Brown. That's pretty well out of play now.
Okay, that seems fair. All right, I think we covered most of the relevant parts of this one. Let's go. Trying to think. Let's go to the Washington-Charlotte game. So we just had this one last Friday, so a bit of deja vu.
Daniel House is going to start.
Oh.
So
okay. Any interest in him?
Yeah, I'm not super shocked there. So. The real noticeable changes there are you would limit your Gerald Green a little bit more. That would knock my projection for him down 3 or 4 minutes. You would limit your Austin Rivers. That would knock my projection for him down 3 or 4 minutes. House still basically just a guy I would want to play as a drop on FanDuel, but pretty compelling in that spot. And probably now for me still behind Layman, but now ahead of Gerald.
Okay, and a bit of a revenge game for old Dan Wellhouse too. This is a former team.
Nice. I forgot about you. There's plenty of revenge. These two teams traded quite a bit, so there's plenty of revenge. Somewhere, Ryan Anderson is sitting on a comfy sofa with conflicted loyalties, watching this one.
He's on a roster, isn't he? Is he on Indiana?
Miami, sir. Miami.
Oh, there. My wrong East. I guess not also ran wrong East. Tough defensive team. I guess would be the best way to put that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. You can kind of dismiss Miami tonight. Like they're
yes.
FanDuel small forward, so you can get on Josh and Winslow and stuff like that. But really, really hard in one lineup for me to go there. There's so many guys I like on other teams that I don't know how many lineups I'd be in before I picked a member of the Heat if we don't get news or something other swirly coming up.
Yeah, I think I actually ended up on one lineup, or two lineups rather. One has Adebayo, one has Olynyk, because I think they're interesting matchups for Milwaukee. But besides Josh Richardson, I agree that both sides really not terribly appealing in that game with the Vegas total and the matchup, I think. Maybe contrarian. Instead of going to the game I wanted, Robosho as a regular in the premium Slack. And of course, the premium Slack you get with our premium membership. So use the promo code Live Before Lock, get half off your first month, so you could get in there too. You could be a VIP like Robosho, one of my favorites. Can we say today is the day that Sacramento will start to lighten the minutes load, given that they have virtually no shot at a playoff berth? I don't think so, but Eddie, what do you think?
I don't think so exceptionally. I'd like to get news specifically saying Bagley will play. I haven't seen it. If he's out, then I would have a little more interesting guys on this team. As it is right now, Buddy Hield's still stupid cheap on FanDuel, still my favorite play on DraftKings. I'm just fine with De'Aaron Fox in tournaments if you want to go there, but still a little concerned with how these minutes on the wing shake out. Bogdan's removal, I don't know how permanent that is, and that by extension, imperils Bielitsa and Barnes, who probably still plays 36, and he got the job done for me yesterday, so he can take a day off. Not as brilliant a spot for me there. It would make you feel a little bit better about Willie. So there's some uncertainty with this team, and again, a billion other options that beyond those couple guards, I'm a little bit, again, just looking at it from more of a single lineup perspective, a little specious about it. If I was playing 150 lineups, I'd have, a dozen to 15 Healed, a little bit less than that Fox, and then smatterings of a couple other guys. A couple shares of Willie Cauley-Stein, who's actually done fairly well against Embiid in the past. Embiid, by far, my favorite play on the 76ers. There's no reason not to love him here. What do we have his ownership versus, say, Drummond and Nurkic right now?
Embiid, we have...
I'm just going to load this so I can stop bugging you, but I'm...
Really no, it's fine. That's what I'm here for, Eddie. We're friends. We help each other out. Joel Embiid, 20% right now. Drummond just a hair ahead at 21%. Who else did you want to know about?
Nurkic, who I bet is just a hair behind, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Nurkic a little bit further behind at 16%.
Yeah. Okay, that's appropriate. There's no real edge there. That's about where that feels right. Embiid, in my opinion, a higher ceiling. And I like Drummond quite a bit. I'm projected north of 50. I'm not surprised if he gets 60 here, but I have Embiid projected close to 60, and I'm not surprised if he gets 70, 75 here. Like, it is as good of a spot as you're going to get out of him. The minutes have apparently come back around to being, in full force, and we're not concerned about that going forward. A word on back-to-backs here and how it can affect some things. I think it's pretty well publicized. The Kings on the back-to-backs, which would be another reason they start to focus up the minutes a little bit here. Maybe you get a few more out of Burks, Brewer, Giles, etc., and they start to pull it back a little bit because they really aren't. They're not going to make it. The West is pretty well set at this point. By the way, shout out Charles Barkley on the TNT show last night saying the Clippers were not going to make the postseason. It's a bold. They're like, you don't think the Clippers? He's like, nope, they're gonna fall apart any day now. It's like they need to go. They have 14 games left. They need to go 4-10, and Sacramento with a tough schedule needs to finish strong. And it's like it would be pretty hard for them to miss. So shout out Barkley for not, looking at stats. But so you have the Lakers and the Kings who played yesterday. The Pelicans play again tomorrow, which has something to do with Anthony Davis sitting. The Suns play again tomorrow, which makes you a little nervous. The Trailblazers play again tomorrow. So both ends of that game. So I have some dubious for that. Again, this is a you take all your Anthony Davis out of there. This is a Pelicans team that should struggle to score. You're going to get, Frank Jackson doing his thing and taking 20 shots. You're going to get some interesting behavior here, but that could get out of hand in a hurry, and everyone plays again tomorrow, so there's a real chance the minutes go real wacky. Same thing with the Spurs. Now, I'd like to think the Spurs could handle the Knicks pretty well, but they played a few weeks ago, and the Knicks beat them straight up, so I don't know. But I have some concern there on a back-to-back for the Spurs that they're certainly being, Popovich Spurs, going to get guys out of there as soon as they get any sort of, lead of substance, or at least sort of in-game limit the minutes a little bit. So I have some concern there. Shout out to the people who are talking with me on Twitter. Yeah, I have friends who work for 3 NBA teams. I know a guy who works for Clips, I know a guy who works for the Bucks, and I know a guy who works for the Pistons in the PR department. And I spoke to him an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and he said, yeah, I just spoke to the guy who was working on Reggie, and he said there's basically no shot he'll play, that his ankle is swollen up, and that he shouldn't play, and they'll announce the news at 5:30. And so I mentioned to a couple people, because I didn't consider it terribly relevant, because I was like, shit, this would have been, I think, the 3rd time in my life I broke news that, Reggie is not going to play. And I just mentioned offhand to people, because it wasn't really relevant, because they said it was going to come out at exactly 5:30, he wouldn't play. And at 5:30 they came out and announced that he was starting. This... I bring up, A, to demonstrate my own immense fallibility, but secondly, to indicate that I'm a little nervous with Reggie. On the face of everything, $4,300 Reggie Jackson versus the Lakers seems brilliant. Even 24, 26 minutes, that's a brilliant goddamn play. And I have to presume that is the most likely scenario. And I would have a fair interest in playing him. I advocate him strongly as a play. He had an A in tournaments, am I right? But for cash, certainly I would say, yeah, it's okay. This game goes a little sideways. He wrecked his ankle. I guess I'll summarize by saying, in cash, I would not play Reggie Jackson if I could avoid it. That's just me. I've given you all the information I have, literally a 43-second phone conversation. And I would have more interest in Ish than I suspect the public, simply because I still do think 30 minutes is in play. So I
think people are still into Ish a little bit. I don't know if the ownership backs it out, but I've seen enough people talk about him today in our various chats where I think people are still going to give him a shot. 7%, so not that high.
So that's what I'm saying. And again, you have Moutier out there for super value, who I imagine is towards the top of our popularity.
Yes, he is number 1 with a bullet, not to spoil that.
Is he number 1? Yeah. So, yeah. So, but it's really weird. This is the, Reggie has not sat a game this year. I could be wrong. I don't think Reggie has sat a game. I'm almost certain of that. So I'm real surprised that in this case. But some chance they obviously limit him for it. So anyhow, same story. We'll move on to talk about other dudes, but I have that lingering, feeling that I'm not shocked if that comes down a hair.
Well, here, let me just float one theory real fast. So, how about this person who you know on the Pistons? I think that speaks more to the disharmony they have as a team right now, and I think you can see it with the way they played recently. It seems like Drummond's the only guy really trying. Reggie Jackson's usage rate was up to almost 40% last game because Blake wasn't even shooting, which I found really odd. And then he also had the ankle issues, which I think were noticeable towards the latter part of that game. It seems like there's something weird there going on overall, and it makes me worry a little bit about both the team and Andre Drummond, who is going to be a popular play tonight, one of the more popular plays overall, as well as Blake. They're both going to be very popular. I'm worried about the Pistons here. If they're going to be chalk plays, I'm going to have less than the field, I think, at least on Blake. What about Blake and Andre? What are your thoughts on those guys?
I mean, it's going to depend where the number comes in. Like, I probably would be a little over the field if that number is as low as we've projected. Like, just at 8,800 versus the Lakers, it is hard to imagine that. Like, I don't mind Drummond in 3/4, and he could get 4. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The number is just incredibly, incredibly too small. I worry about Blake. Has obviously looked really bad recently. They played the Lakers
Only 2
earlier.
games over 40 since the All-Star break.
Yeah, they played the Lakers earlier this year. Blake had 20 something. If that makes you feel better, like it's I am still fine with Blake. Obviously, the upside is massive, but again, as far as a spend up option goes, I maybe come in a little under that. But 88 and 7,700 are just numbers that scream I have a massive upside. I would just rather go with slightly less chalky options if I possibly could, but I would not get on anyone for playing Blake Griffin.
All right, and before we do the halftime daddy likes, let's just hit the Lakers side here. Which Lakers are you finding playable? I guess, what are you feeling about them overall? They're on the back half of a back-to-back. We're going to have no LeBron, so we're going to have a lot of usage to flow around, but will it actually go to the starters? Starters played limited minutes yesterday because they got kind of beaten by the Raptors enough where they just didn't want to put him back in there. So what are we doing with the Lakers, Eddie?
Yeah, Okafor is going to start, by the way, which is interesting. I think he has frequently started and seen, not a ton of minutes, so I have some concern there, but certainly relevant where he is, I think, same exact positionality and same exact price as Hernan Gomez, so that makes an interesting pivot. Yeah, they're both exactly 3,200. I would I'm gonna jump in front there and talk about Charlotte for a second because I think they're one of the most important teams here. Like Marvin, obviously was not that long ago. I was preaching Marvin against Washington, and he went out and had what is very reasonably considered a ceiling game, but still underpriced on DK, $4,600, exact same matchup. I'm sure he is in the top 5 that we'll be getting to in a minute or two, and deservedly so. I like that quite a bit. So there's just a number of ways the Hernan Gomez thing can go wrong. In no particular order. One, they can unmothball Bismack Biyombo, which I expected them to do and give him some significant time against Houston because Capella is, is certainly an offensive force, and Hernan Gomez is certainly not a defensive one. And Bismack, while literally one of the worst offensive players in the NBA by any acknowledgement, is a far, far better defensive center than Hernan Gomez, and you have Walker and Lamb, Batum, and other guys out there to score, so stop their center from absolutely demolishing you, and they did not do that, so, Portis is of a similar vein, except he can also bang out some threes, so maybe Bismack gets back in the rotation. MKG is back and able to play and has played some time at the 5 in small lineups before, and if Portis is going at center, they can do that. They can roll Frank out there for some extra time. Yeah. They're going to run Marvin some at the 5. So, I still like Hernan Gomez more than Okafor, because even if you think he gets 25 minutes, that's a massive, massive price and a massive, massive spot. But just, keep in mind in the back of your head, there's a lot of ways this can go wrong, and both these teams need to win this game. So, if I am not shocked if you see single-digit minutes out of Hernan Gomez here. I'm not shocked if you see 26 minutes and 37 fantasy points. But just, there's a real floor. So I just felt that needed to be explained. Like Lamb, like Batum, less obviously, but like Batum is getting more usage, more minutes as we get towards late in the year. They shortened up their rotation, and he's become more tolerable, obviously, in playing GPPs in a great lineup. Like Kemba, generally I'm moving towards playing Booker instead of Kemba and playing Lamb to sort of cover up that space. But yeah, that's where I'll come down on that. So okay, then you asked about the Lakers, which Lakers I want to play. None yet. Have we gotten a lineup yet? The game.
We have not gotten a lineup
26 minutes. A lineup wouldn't hurt here. I'm not shocked if they sit somebody else at all. Like if we get Rondo won't play. Not shocked at all. So I can talk about Josh Hart, who obviously is bad most of the time. I will generally say first, I'm not going to be super excited about any of the Lakers. I like JaVale McGee in tournaments regardless. There's just a giant upside, 51 and 44 are the price tags. If this game stays competitive, and they play their veterans full strength and normally, and they're trying to win, and there's no Tyson Chandler, Andre Drummond is one big-ass dude, and it's fun to put Mo Wagner out there and watch him play with his food. But, so JaVale I'll have interest in no matter what, but there's KCP and Hart and Caruso and Rondo and Kuzma, and I don't know quite what to expect yet. So I'm gonna pause on that question. Let's do some daddy like, and then hopefully come back to it on the flippity flip.
I just one note. I am on KCP today at a pretty decent margin. I think the usage is up. I think this is also a revenge game. Not that it matters a little further in the past, but KCP is a guy who intrigues me. But we'll go back to that.
It's just Detroit. Like, I got a lot of value I like today. A lot of guys I think have an upside. KCP, FanDuel I'd probably like a little more because he can pull a couple steals. I'll take 3 for each of those, and I can drop him if he's shit. But, like, DK, there's a real-ass floor there. I would rather take, somebody on Houston who is getting a shot against the Suns than him pacing all the way the hell down to play against the Pistons in general. So I don't think he's out of play whatsoever. I'm not shocked if you get starting KCP, plays 31 minutes, scores 26 fantasy points, and looks just great. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Josh Hart, who obviously is injured, has had a bad knee for quite some time now. Makes me worry about his ownership. About his production, how much time he's going to get. And again, the matchup is just shit. But Josh Hart, I've been following since, Summer League, a couple of years now, and dude can get some work done, and you take Braun out of there. I don't hate Lance Stevenson. You can drop Lance. Lance is back. He hasn't gotten a ton of minutes, but you have Braun out of there now. He sort of is mini shitty Braun. Maybe he plays 23 minutes, and certainly, again, FanDuel makes a pretty compelling drop for me. So have some Lance ruled out. Josh Hart ruled out. Reggie Bullock in. Look, that hit right on time.
That was well timed. So thoughts on Reggie Bullock, because we were actually asked about that by Moses Guthrie too.
I'd rather play KCP at this juncture.
There we go.
But
KCP growing stronger.
It's just I can feel the hate growing within me. Bullock is fine. Like Bullock is just Bullock is a guy, especially against the Pistons. I want to see Rondo starting because. If Alex Caruso is, and again, I have no specific reason to believe this. I just think giving Rondo a day of rest makes a lot of sense to me. I presume he will start. Bullock is still fine. You have some reasonable distribution there, but the lack of the sort of multi-AAB distribution of him and Braun and the floor spacing make it a little harder for Reggie Bullock to get up what he's going to get up. But I have no issue with him. But I would probably slightly prefer KCP at this part, who I imagine starts next to him now.
Yeah, and also one last KCP. Now we cover this adequately. KCP playing for a contract, and he's a guy who's gotten used to some fat contracts thanks to Team LeBron. So just playing for a contract, a lot of usage go around. That's a spot where I like KCP. All right, Eddie. Daddy likes halftime.
Right.
Eddie,
refresh, make sure we got the brand newliest of it.
We do. I just refreshed.
Okay, good.
Got Emmanuel Mudiay, number 1 on the list, up a little bit from where he was before the refresh. 39% expected ownership. How does Daddy feel about that?
That's about the right number. I presume right now that's about right. I would be ready to pivot because we're going to get some news from Phoenix and other things that I expect to change things a little bit. But look, 4,200, he's always been, Fizdale's boy. They did recall Kadeem Allen, who's going to back him up. There is, I have some interest in Kadeem Allen, who just has, has had a big game before this year in more difficult matchups than this one. Someone commented earlier that the Knicks guards collectively and point guards and Dennis Smith, etc., were very good in that game against the Spurs. That is accurate, but again, that was with no Derek White, who is a better defender. He's not in DeJounte Murray's class, which is why next year it'll be interesting to see how they both run that team and guard. But he's still much better than they had then, so that would neuter the point of point guards were good against the Spurs for this team recently. But yeah, 4,200 is too cheap. I think the most likely scenario is he plays about 30 minutes. I have to think he's probably good for a little less than that in fantasy points, and 4,200 is a very cheap number. I imagine I would be slightly less than that at the moment, but it's about right.
All right, number 2 on the list, we have the bearded one, James Harden, 33% expected ownership. I think we know the answer, but how does Daddy feel about that?
More.
I'm about double, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the floor is here. Like, I really can't imagine what you think the floor is. He costs 11,000 on DK. Like, you obviously have to define floor. So I will define floor as under 10%, like delta range. Like the odds, the score he will exceed 90% of the time is 50. It really is. So I just. And the ceiling is 100. Like, I cannot, that's too low. So, yes, more. Again, I will again say, I think it is higher than that. And I don't care. So, there you go.
Yeah, I think it gets a little higher too, but we'll see. There's always one more update, I think, closer to lock, and maybe that one will be the one that puts it over 40%. Number 3 on the list, we have Willy Hernangomez, 32% expected ownership on DraftKings. How does Daddy feel about that?
Definitely under.
Okay. Yeah, you outlined all your reasons already. That checks out.
There's just a lot of ways it can go. 32% is too big. Like, he's on paper a very good play. But again, a la Ayton and Hayward, and there's been, I don't know, a dozen times this year where I was like, here's the chalky dude who just has too high of a percentage to fail to be that highly owned. That's him. He's 3,200. He costs literally nothing. You can do fine if he gives you 14. But especially considering the positional price that you are paying. Yeah, I will look elsewhere.
And I feel like Sixers have had some weird struggles recently. I feel like we've had a couple prominent busts versus the Washington Wizards, even though there's no logical reason why on paper. But I feel like we've seen that a couple times since Portis came on board. Sure. I don't know. Number 4, Marvin Williams, 27% expected ownership. How does Daddy feel about that?
Yeah, I'd probably be over that. It's just a strongly better play than a lot of these other guys. It is literally the perfect matchup for him. We won't get him as low owned as we had him last time, where he was 15 or whatever and gave us 50, and I don't have him projected for 50, but I have him for about 35, and he's 4,600, and it's just way too good of a spot, and there's center minutes potentially, which are very good, and just, yeah. So I'll go over on Marvin. I got to work on that one.
That was good, Marvin the Martian. I like that. Marvin the Martian, not appreciated in Looney Tunes canon.
Not a world away. Like, I haven't done it in a while. I need to get more source material, but working on it.
And number 5 to close us out, Blake Griffin at 22%. How does Daddy feel about that?
Yeah, I'll come under. There's just a number of ways it can go squirrely, and there's just other guys around there I like. Like, I like Blake Griffin at 7,700. 7,700 Blake Griffin is just, brilliant guy who you think, he doesn't, but he just doesn't feel like he has a safe floor anymore. But against these Lakers, yeah, he can throw up 65 or something like that can happen. But, he's 7,700. Nurkic can do it for 74, and obviously you can't play him at forward. And Kemba can do it at 82, and Booker can do it at 81, and there's just dudes I think can get there who are going to be less owned. So I would come in under. It's not a bad play at all, but I'd be in the 15 to 20% range, I think.
All right, let's see. What game should we go to next? I feel like we've talked about a few of these in different parts. Did we talk enough about Charlotte, Washington? I feel like maybe let's go back to that, because I feel like there might be some spots.
I didn't talk about the Wizards a lot. Obviously, you have Bradley Beal's stupid ceiling minutes potential. I really like Tomas Satoransky here. I feel like the floor is safe. I feel like the minute should be good here. I do think the upside is present. So, someone I'd have decent exposure to. Same thing with Beal. Ariza and Decker and everyone being in makes that a little less exciting. Ariza is a very nice tournament play for me here, just because, again, he was questionable for most of the day, and his ownership will be irrationally halved. Jeff Green still makes a fine FanDuel punt for me that has the upside at 4,500 if you want to pay up a little out of the Daniel House category. And Bobby Portis is a dude who obviously has a massive ceiling, and presuming they start Sweet Dick Willy Hernangomez against him, They pump fake me. The Lakers available Friday. Our friends tweet out: Rondo, Bullock, Kuzma, Wagner, McGee, Caruso, Caldwell Pope, Ingram, Bonga, Muscala, Williams. Which seems sort of like a dumb tweet because like they only have 11 dudes when that's more dudes than you need to play. But noted, those are the guys who are available. Bonga probably doesn't make it. You probably see I will guess they will play the other 10 and Bonga doesn't get in. But there's a real chance this game goes to shit. That they don't score a ton. That no one plays 30 minutes. Like I'm a fan of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I'd really like to see a lineup, but I have concern about the Lakers. This is not a spot where I think, well, these guys are so cheap, there's so much uses, 5 of them are going to be good. I'll go with 1.5 as my guess for how many Lakers, at the end of the day, if you could build your lineup, you would put in it.
It's a proud day for Team KCP, adding more members by the moment. Very excited about that.
I'm sorry, I can't believe we didn't say this. Revenge.
For which part?
KCP.
Oh yeah, I did say that.
Oh, I didn't. I apologize. Please continue.
Him and Bullocks too, or Bullocks. So the guy in the chat said Bollocks spelled.
Never mind the Bullocks.
Yeah. So now it's in my head, but yeah, he's not a British man as far as I know. No. Let's see. Let's go back to that Washington side. So we got Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal stunk last time versus Charlotte, but he also shot 4 for 21. One would think that'll level out, and by stunk for Bradley Beal, he still had 41 fantasy points. I think this is a really good spot for Bradley Beal. Going back to him, I don't know if he would be a potential pivot to Harden, but he's a guy who's going to be tough to get to with Harden. But I like him quite a bit. The other guys here, I'm iffy on now that we know Ariz is in there. But what about the Wizards for you, Eddie?
Yeah, I think I just went down everyone on the team.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, my bad. A little bit of a brain fart. All right. Let's go to the Clippers game. We haven't talked about that one. This is one which I feel like a lot of the people want to know about. Not a ton of ownership on it. All the Bulls projected for under 10%. Yep. Clippers have a little bit more. What are you doing in this game, Eddie?
Yeah, for the Bulls, my favorite guy would probably actually be Robin Lopez. It does not feel great, but the matchup is brilliant, and his price is still tolerable in the mid-5s. And if he's going to play 35 minutes, you can pull 45 in that situation against the Clippers out of Robin Lopez. So if you're telling me you're building a GPP lineup, you must start with a Bull. Rolo would be my first guy in. Second would probably be Otto Porter, for previously mentioned dude was not necessarily going to play and is now going to play and gets lower ownership for no good reason. And then third would be Lauri Markkanen, who I refuse to think has completely forgotten how to play basketball. Gets some of the beneficial matchup that Rolo gets, for example, is a good rebounding spot, etc. So for the Bulls, I would probably play Rolo, then Porter, then Markkanen if I had to play one of 3. I think they're all just fine at their prices. I think there are better prices today. I don't think I would get to one in a single lineup. But if I'm building 150 lineups, I probably have something like, I'll say 12 Rolo, 10 Otto, and 7 or 8 Markkanen.
Okay, I could support that.
How about a lineup, Lakers? I mean, take your time. It's not like we're tipping in 12 minutes or whatever, but just, go.
Here's a relevant question, which we didn't hit on when we talked about the Pelicans. Check Diallo should pick up some more minutes, or one would assume should pick up some more minutes, especially now that we know that Okafor is going to be starting. But what do you think here about Check Diallo's prospects as a value guy?
Wizards will start who we expected them to. Rudy Gay is confirmed in. I love him. I think he's an excellent value play. He just won't be high enough owned for. With Anthony Davis out, you enter stupid ceiling game out of him potentially. Now, it's obviously not the best matchup. Nurkic can rebound. Your boy Al-Farouq Aminu, if he can hold down Anthony Davis or at least limit him somewhat, should be able to hold down Check Diallo. But all those guys in the front court make very interesting tournament plays. Diallo probably my favorite. It ends up being site dependent. DK, and then probably Okafor is just, I will pivot off super chalky Hernan Gomez with another guy at the same exact center, limited positionality, and rough spot for him. Definitely a chance he only gets 15 minutes or Yusuf Nurkic dogs him out. But that would be my 1 and 2 if I was going to look at those guys.
All right. Let's talk a little bit more about Philly because I think we should just hit on them. I don't know that we did enough, and again, some questions about them in the YouTube chat. We talked about Joel Embiid. What about the rest of the pieces here? We have Jimmy Butler back in the rotation after resting last game. Tobias Harris, obviously, there. I think this is the first game where they've all been healthy in a while. If you want to fact check me on that.
Um, he was out, and then they were out. 4 games, I think.
Yeah. So it has been frequent, if nothing else.
Yep.
So which guys are you the most comfortable with? We talked about Embiid. We both love Embiid today. It's a really great spot for him, assuming the Kings don't.
It's Embiid by a lot for me. Then a pretty decent step down to Simmons, who is fine, has the ceiling, fine in cash even. Just, again, costs a little more than Booker and Kemba and guys I think. Like Booker and Kemba getting 60 tonight, I'm not shocked whatsoever. And they cost a little less. So, again, it comes down to an ownership question between these 3 guys. But next guy for me would be pretty significantly Simmons, then a pretty decent step down to Harris, then a pretty decent step down to Butler, who, obviously has an upside but makes me concerned with all hands on deck, and then pretty decent step down to our boy there, JJ Redick.
All right. Let's see. Anything else you want to hit on in your notes before we go take some questions?
Clicking over, scrolling through.
Any Spurs thoughts? Your Derek White in a nice spot again. Your guy who you did nail the other night. Also, Aldridge and DeRozan playing playoff minutes recently.
Yeah, I would play DeRozan over Aldridge if I had to in this matchup, but they're just prices aren't good enough. They're home now. I just worry this game gets the hell out of control and Pop screws with it. So you made me play Spurs in a GPP. I think my order is probably DeRozan, Gay, White, Aldridge. But, again, single lineup, they just would not crack it for me there. Knicks, Dotson has been the truth. I've been outside of Moutier. Dude's been getting minutes, getting shots. Decent matchup. If you got to go against the Spurs, he's in a good spot for it. So, I guess Damian Dotson probably next up on the hit parade for me. Mitch Robinson had 50 against the Spurs in that game. There was no DeAndre Jordan there, and I don't think that is a representative performance. So I wouldn't go a lot there. I like Lou Williams tonight. Price is down a little bit. Had, I don't even know, 65, 70 fantasy points in this matchup last time. That doesn't mean anything to me, but it's a bad defense, and against a bad defense in the hammer, Lou Williams can give you 65 or 70 just about any day, so the ceiling is obviously present and what I expect to be, I'll guess, 7% ownership. I'm pretty excited for Lou Williams.
Will a little higher than that. Lou, a little higher than that.
Starting.
17.
See? Didn't even get to the game, and one of the downside occurrences happened. Didn't even get to the damn game.
That's strange.
And now people have to change lineups.
Well,
the question will now be, what do you think about Bismack Biyombo? I like him a lot. It obviously can go all kinds of terrible, but all he needs to do is rebound and put back. So I would like him more than Okafor at this point for a much more brilliant matchup. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than that. I am not shocked if they limit his minutes and he is just an offensive eyesore to the extent which you really can't imagine. And again, MKG is back and Guillermo will play off the bench, which is better for him, by the way. I like Guillermo. Assuming this news came out an hour ago, I would have liked Guillermo Hernan Gomez more now, just for what it's worth. But, yeah, go and get yourself some guy. I knew we were going to get some news close to lock. Whenever you have 8:30 games, by the way, 7 o'clock clock gets squirrelier. Yep. Starting otherwise who we thought they were. Take your time, Lakers. I mean, really, I wouldn't stress about it.
I thought you said Diallo was starting at first, and I was like, well, that makes sense. The Pelicans would screw with that, and that would have excited me, but I'm not.
Biyombo.
Yeah, that's
Biyombo.
not the best. What about the guy on the other side of Mr. Biyombo today? Or actually, I guess now technically he's going to be on the other side of Willie Hernan Gomez. People asking about Thomas Bryant at center. Obviously spiked that double-double game last time. What do you think?
Get him the hell in there. No reliability. Again, his usefulness generally comes inversely to how good Bobby Portis is being, and this is still a pretty great spot for Bobby Portis. Yes, I like Kelly Oubre, whoever asked. I think he's great in tournaments. Yeah, I like him a lot. Just understand there's a real chance he plays 16 minutes and has 20 fantasy points, but this is certainly a spot in which he can play minutes and put up fantasy points. I feel like that.
Here's a question about Alonzo Trier. Do you think he would be a viable pivot to the Emmanuel Mudiay chalk?
It's very risky. There's a lot of other value guards I like. I don't think I would be inclined to go there. He is a viable pivot, obviously, because he's one of the guys who could step up production, but I would much rather run Kadeem Allen. Just go right against the grain there. You had 2 fouls on him. Kadeem Allen could randomly get 30 minutes and crush face. Let's go with that. That seems a better idea for me. So I would probably recommend Kadeem the Dream a little bit more.
All right. Is Frank Jackson a good Mudiay pivot while we're talking about those?
If his price is down that low, yeah, I'm fine with that. Dude going to take a lot of shots. Mudiay is 4,200. I thought Frank was in the mid to high 4s, at which point he doesn't really function as a pivot. But if you're saying, am I okay to have Frank Jackson and not Mudiay? Yes and yes. You certainly don't need Mudiay, especially when he's super owned. And Frank Jackson, especially with Anthony Davis, dude going to take some shots. Dude going to take some shots. Now, I'll guess his shooting line right now at 8 for 19 and 23 fantasy points, because he doesn't do a hell of a lot else. But, 11 for 19 isn't out of the realm of possibility. So, any good small forward punts on FanDuel. There are a myriad of good small forward punts on FanDuel. The best is probably Jake Layman. The second best at this point is probably Daniel House. And I have a feeling there are a couple others that aren't jumping to mind that I'm going to look for right now. But, yeah, I like Jake Layman for the upside, a little extra run in the blowout. The absence of Mo Harkless, just giving him some upfront value. Don't need things to go too weird. But, yeah, probably Layman, House, Green would be my order of those 3 guys. But, you do you, baby.
All right. Also, a note from the chat: Rudy Gay will play a little bit per pop, is what they're saying about Rick.
See, it begins.
Yeah, that's
so don't play like Rudy Gay, quite obviously. Maybe Acapurtle will still start. Rondo, Bullock, Kuzma, Muscala, and McGee starting. Okay. So, What the fuck? Okay, no change on McGee. Still like him a lot in tournaments. Muscala now very much in play as one of a number of much lower owned pivots. But again, the situation is tough. Okay, don't overreact to any of this shit. Kuzma did move up to the 3, which is something we thought might happen. Bullock is there. Hart is out, so KCP will get that second roller. Yeah, it does not change a whole lot. Don't mind some exposure to Rondo. This game stays close. He's going to have a stupid line. He's just going to have a dumb line. Either him or Kuzma as well. Those 2 guys have to initiate, create, whatever, handle the damn offense. Bruce Brown back in the starting lineup. Jackson confirmed starting. Ellington, Brown, Griffin, and Drummond as expected. The rest there.
All right. Let's see if there are any other good questions. Do you like Oubre? You said that already.
Yes.
For DK Cash, would you go Diallo and Nurkic or Melton and Randall?
I'm sorry, Melton?
D'Anthony Melton.
The one with everyone who's definitely going to play?
I guess.
I'll go the other way. I'll go Diallo and Nurkic. It's sort of game stacking, too, so maybe you paid up for some Booker in that lineup.
Hield and Jackson or Booker and House for a DK GPP?
In a vacuum, not knowing who else is in your lineup, I probably slightly prefer Hield and Jackson.
Booker and Drummond or Beal and Nurkic for DK Cash?
Beal and Nurkic.
Jeremy Lamb and Gerald Green or Rivers and Winslow for FanDuel Cash?
Lamb and Green.
FanDuel Cash. Actually, no. Yeah, we got that one. Another Melton question. I think that's the same guy. Single lineup for FanDuel. Would you go Buddy, Lamb, or Lou Will?
I would probably... I'd need to know their ownerships, and I don't offhand. I will go ahead and find another question. I'll look at our FanDuel ownership.
Getting a question about your thoughts on Kyle Kuzma. It is a spot. He is from Michigan. I would also note that. I think he's going to have a ton of usage. I forced him in there just because I think he's interesting. But
assuming I don't have Kemba, I don't care about anyone else on Charlotte for this question. I would go with Lamb, who we have projected to be owned the lowest, and I have projected to be towards the top in scores there. So for me, it'd probably be Lamb, Lou Will, the else. Sorry, question.
Thoughts on on Kyle Kuzma today, returning back to his home, his native state of Michigan.
I like him a lot. I think the upside is there, and if this game stays close, I think he or Rondo are great alongside Blake or Drummond now, because if you're out there searching for upside, which you should be, certainly, if you want that game to go squirrely, he's the guys you look at. Like going with any of those value pieces, I worry, and certainly there's a real downside for Kuzma, who's not necessarily 100%. The matchup isn't wonderful. I mean, he's a guy who gets to the rim a lot, and he's going to meet some bad people when he gets there.
All right. Boom. Kemba, Williams, and Nurkic. Oh, no. Damn it. This guy's sneaking in with another Melton question, but DK Cash, Kemba, Williams, and Nurkic, or Melton, Randall,
I don't think
and
Melton is going to play. In the last couple games, I believe Melton did not play, and Okobo played like 2 minutes, I believe was the case. Maybe Melton randomly starts, but unless you have information that I don't, which certainly happens from time to time, I would not be terribly interested in going there.
All right. Satoransky, Booker, and McGee, or Hield, Ish, and Embiid for FanDuel?
Hield, Ish, and Embiid.
How many minutes now for Willie Hernangomez, do you think?
11.
Ooh.
You're going to see Marvin at the 5, MKG at the 5 as well against this team, I think. Like, he's going to be one of the 4 men who play center for this team. Especially with him just having some lingering ownership because of people who don't get the news and get the hell out of there in time. Yeah, not a ton of interest for me.
Fair enough. Capella or Nurkic for a FanDuel GPP?
It's going to depend on the rest of your team. Just raw points, I have to stick with Nurkic.
Jabari, Winslow, or Barnes for a FanDuel GPP?
I have them all almost identical. I'll go with Winslow for what should be infinitesimal ownership.
Lillard and Layman, or Blame? Oh, Blake, I would assume, and Ish for DK GPP.
Blake and Ish.
Rondo or Lamb?
Lamb raw points. Rondo is an excellent tournament pivot.
Oh, Kuzma scored 41 real points on Detroit last game for what that's worth.
Yep.
That's interesting.
No, I know. Yes. It's not entirely analogous. The starting lineup had one guy in the same position versus tonight, but yeah.
All right, now we're locked, so now we ride.
I was digging for more last second news. Whenever there's 8:30 games, news tends to hit it 90 minutes before lock, for partially because of NBA mandated reasons, etc. So always makes me nervous as hell whenever there's an 8:30 game. Yeah, that was.
Tell you who didn't get off Willie Hernangomez enough. This guy right here.
Yeah, I feel I feel for you guys. Like I said, how many minutes? I said 11. You went oof. I'm like, sorry. Like if you gun to my head, say, does he play 12 minutes tonight? I think I'm on the under. Like there's a very real possibility that Biyombo plays well, and he plays 30 minutes.
That would be a double kick in the nards, I'll tell you
and
what.
Yeah. Great. I really like this slate. There's just a whole lot going on, but...
Would you have global swapped to Biyombo there?
Yes. For what I presume will be radically reduced ownership, which... Is that one of our 7 o'clock games?
I believe it is. Actually, is it? Because that would be helpful if it's not. It's one of the first 3. Let's see. Nope. Yep. 7 o'clock tip. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. No games at 7:30. It's just those at 7.
But you're gonna have. I'll guess Biyombo at 2 or 3% and Hernangomez at 12. So yeah. I would also project him higher at this juncture. So yeah. Here we go. Number one.
Asking. Oh, sorry. Before we do that, just Rinpack's a regular, and I feel like this question might be relevant for some people who can maybe change things, or I guess can't change things anyway. Well, how would you have ranked Muscala, Biyombo, and Okafor if you had enough time to make all those adjustments?
On DK, 4 tournaments. Biyombo, Muscala, Okafor. All right, here we go. DK, and I have to run a little bit quick here. Here we go. Marvin Williams, 30%. That's about what we expected. I'm fine with a little bit more than that. Joel Embiid, 27. Whew. More than we thought. A little more than I thought. I'd probably come in just less than that, but again, he was one of my favorite guys to spend up on there. Kemba 24, sounds good. Bobby Portis 23, probably coming under that on Portis because of some of the other options. The value, the necessity to play Harden, wanting to pay up at center makes it a little harder to get to him. So I think I'd have less than that, but I don't have an issue with it. 22 on Blake, we've been through it many times. 21 on Beal, feels just fine, a little more than I expected, but feels fine. 21 on Drummond, like that. I'd probably be a little over that. So again, we had he's about where we expected. Embiid ended up being way higher. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 8th most highly owned guy, 18%.
See, the Pope hive growing by a bit.
It was all you, man. You pushed.
I know. They saw
Pope.
the man bun and they were like, "This guy knows. This guy knows KCP."
On a rope. Kuzma 16%. I like that. Hernan Gomez 13.4%.
Oof.
Thank you for paying the rake. Hopefully, present company accepted. Mo Wagner 11.34%. I like that a lot more than Hernan Gomez at this point. Jeremy Lamb 11%. I think that's brilliant. De'Aaron Fox, the Ocho 8% for Fox at that price. That feels good. Rondo 8% I think is also brilliant. Simmons 8% is about right. Caruso 7.8. That's probably a little bit ambitious. Satoransky 7.6. I like that. I think that's great. Reggie Jackson 6.6. I'd want more than that. Like, I obviously had my very real concerns, more so than anyone else, and I still want more than 6.6% against starting against the Lakers. Batum 6%. I like that. Jabari Parker.
That's good.
Sorry?
That's good. He's been steady as can be. Like 30 points over 6 out of his last time.
I'm fine with that in a brilliant matchup. Jabari Parker 5.6. That seems about right. Buddy Hield 5.5. I'd want well more than that, 2 or 3 times. Reggie Bullock 4.8. I'm fine. Luke Kennard 4%. I guess Lakers, like that's your out. It's Lakers, but I like him. They haven't used him near as much as I expected, but coming off the bench, which I think I like a little bit more, and it obviously drives down his ownership. Thomas Bryant 4%. Sounds good. I'm fine. I'm a fan if I have that. Ish 4%. I like that quite a bit. Tobias Harris 3.5. It's about where it should be. JaVale McGee 3.2. I'd want more than that. I do think there's a real upside there. Redick 3% feels about right. Bielitsa 3% feels about right. Barnes 3% feels about right. Bismack Biyombo 2.2. So he is 1/6 the ownership, almost on the nose, to Hernan Gomez. I'd want more than that. I'd happily swap those numbers at this juncture. Frank Kaminsky 2%. I'm sorry. Of all the ways that the starting center could get fucked, I don't think I mentioned Frank as yet another one who can roll out and play the 5 and take more minutes and push Marvin down and blah, blah, blah. Jeff Green 2%. I'd want more than that. Jimmy Butler 1.5. Feels about right. Muscala 1.5. I guess I'd want more than that. Just, starting. Weirder things have happened than him playing, 25, 30 minutes here. Bagley 1.34%. I don't want that. Willie Cauley-Stein 1.3. I'd want more than that. Ariza 1.3. As mentioned, that's brilliant. Bogdan 1.13. I think I was totally off. I may have even yanked him from rankings. I think I did, just because at this point I can't spend 5 and change on a day where a lot of guys are brilliantly priced on a guy where I think might play 20, 22 minutes here. Jonathan Williams 1%. Sure. Miles Bridges 0.75. Sure. Boban 0.6. He's upstairs sleeping right now. Hey, Bobby. Harry Giles, 0.5. Sure. Wayne Ellington, 0.4. Sure. Thon McCurr, 0.3. I like that a lot, actually. You just need that game to go sideways, which isn't impossible, and that can certainly work out. So I like that. TJ McConnell, 0.25%. Fine. Ennis, 0.21. I don't think so now. Langston Galloway, 0.14. Sure. Lakers. Tony Parker, 0.14. Okay. Josh Hart, congratulations. You played yourself. 0.13%. Also, Lance Stevenson, identical. 0.13%. So between those two guys, that's 0.25%. And then 13.5% Willie Hernan Gomez. People paying the rate for us right there. That's 13.
Yeah, and the people playing 35% Willie Hernan Gomez, I hear, get their money back today from DraftKings.
They're just going to refund you? That's nice of them. You don't understand, DraftKings. I was doing my job. I was on the air. I didn't have a choice. Like, they just run. I'm sure they're down for that.
I think they should be. They should. I promote them as much as anybody out there. But whatever, it is what it is. Go Willie, go. All right.
Moutier will start. Lance Thomas will start. Because that needs to happen.
Why not? All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out. Also use that promo code live before lock. Get half off your first month at awesemo.com. We'll have a ton of content for the night slate. So if perhaps you played too much Willie Hernan Gomez, might be good to go sign up now. Get half off your first month. Get some money back for the night slate. We'll be back. Eddie, what's your weekend schedule?
Sorry, I said at least you're still sports rich.
Yeah, I'm sports and love rich, Eddie. But yeah, no, what's your weekend schedule looking like?
Here every day. I'm off Tuesday. Tuesday will be a break to my substantial labors. It is my wife's birthday. We are going to see Weezer and the Pixies and all of them like 11 days in a row, so that seems like a good time to take a break.
That seems like a fun one. All right, so check out Eddie this weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday, and I wish you the best of luck. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I got to end the stream. See? We're live. I got to find it. We're live. Shout out Cleveland Browns. I've had this sweatshirt for 10 years. I'm not on
people liked my hair and like your sweatshirt quite a bit today.
That's good. Yeah. Not my hair. Usually that's all I have going for me. If they don't like my hair, that's it in my career.